chapter 29 of Ramayana's Ayodhya Kanda, Bharata in Ayodhya. Apadamahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shriramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. They passed several beautiful cities, picturesque forests and rivers, which snaked their way along, and Bharata's eyes were unseeing. He did not notice anything on the way, and his face was grave and thoughtful. A premonition that something dreadful was in store for him filled his mind, and he could not shed it. 7 days and 7 nights had to pass before they could reach the promontory of Kosala. Early in the morning of the 8th day, they could see from the distance the golden turrets of the city of Ayodhya. Bharata spoke to his charioteer and said, "Even from this distance, the sight of my beloved Ayodhya makes my heart swell with joy and pride. Ayodhya, with its many gardens, with its white sands, with the music of the Vedas recited by the holy men and ruled by the best of men, is ever beautiful like Indra's Amaravati." They came nearer and nearer, and soon they reached the gates of the city. Bharata seemed to be nonplussed by its unusual appearance. He said, "Strange, there seems to be no noise coming from the city, as though there are no people. The gardens seemed as though they have not been used since a long time. There is not to be heard the noise made by the chariots of passers by in the streets. It looks more like a desolate forest than a city to me. The perfume of the city would always greet one who entered it, and I miss it now. What about the music of the trumpets, bugles, veena, and other instruments?" Bharata looked around him in puzzled wonder and said, "Bad omens greet me when I enter the city. I am afraid, very much afraid that something terrible has happened to me." Bharata entered the city by the beautiful gateway by name Vaijayanta. The doorkeepers stood up and greeted him with the usual Jaya Vijayi Bhava. Bharata looked around, and it seemed to him that the people were weeping and that the entire city was sunk in sorrow. He hurried towards the palace of the king. Jumping down from the chariot, he rushed inside. The king was not in his chamber. Bharata was disappointed that he could not meet him as soon as he arrived in Ayodhya. He decided that his father was certain to be found in the apartments of his mother Kaikeyi. He went there. Kaikeyi heard him coming, and rising gladly up from her couch, she rushed to meet him and welcome him. In a moment, Bharata was able to perceive that the usual decorations were absent there. He prostrated before his mother and clasped her feet in his hands. She raised him, and after embracing him, asked him about the welfare of her father and brother. Bharata replied that they were in the best of health. He added, "Mother, messengers came from Ayodhya to Rajagriha and told me that I was wanted here. To obey the king's behest and the command of my guru, I hurried here. From the moment I arrived in Ayodhya, there seems to be sadness and nothing but sadness which greets me. Wherever I look, the people seem to be unhappy. And as for this chamber of yours, why is your couch so empty? Father is usually to be found here in your chamber on that couch. I am eager and impatient to fall at his feet. I want to see his face, which I have been missing all these days. Is he, perhaps, with Mother Kausalya? Tell me where my father is. I want to go to him and take the dust off his feet." With her mind still deluded in her love for the throne, Kaikeyi could not grasp the extent of the misfortune which had befallen her. She spoke in a flat and unemotional voice. "Your father, the righteous Dasaratha, the refuge and solace of everyone who was in trouble, father of the country, has attained that state which all living beings should attain one day." The suddenness of it, the abrupt manner in which she broke the news to him, made Bharata reel with the shock and he fell unconscious to the floor. After a few moments, he recovered and still rolling on the ground, he said, "Everything is lost. I am killed. I have nothing to live for." Bharata could not be comforted. He had been anticipating some bad news, but this was something which took him unawares and he could not bear it. He wailed loudly and said, "I have always seen my father on that couch, and ever since I can remember, it has been thus. Today, like the sky without the moon, the couch seems empty, so empty. My father is not there any longer." He covered his face with his upper cloth and wept for a long time. Kaikeyi was looking on while he mourned the death of his father. She went near him and stroked him with loving hands. She raised him up and said, "Come, rouse yourself. Wise men do not give way to grief like this." After the first shock had abated somewhat, Bharata, in between sobs, asked his mother, "Mother, when the messengers came and insisted that I should leave for Ayodhya at once, I was hoping that I was being summoned for the coronation of Rama as your Raja. I was very happy at the thought, and all the way during my journey to here, I was imagining the celebration that would be arranged here. And all my happiness has been destroyed by this one word from you. My mind is shattered. I will not see my father again. Mother, tell me, what caused his sudden demise? When I left for Rajagriha, he was quite well, and I never dreamed that this calamity would befall me. Fortunate indeed is Rama, who was here by his side to perform the funeral rites for our father. I have come back from Kekeya, and my father does not know it. I would have fallen at his feet, and he would have lifted me up and embraced me again and again. He would have stroked me in my arms with loving hands and smiled at me with love. Announce me to Rama. Mother, I have to go to Rama. I need him since he is my brother, my father and my mother. He is everything to me. I will clasp his feet in my hands and find solace in it. Mother, how did my father die? He was the very image of Dharma, and he was famed for his prowess and his love for his subjects. Tell me, what were his last words? Unfortunate son that I am, I was denied even the privilege of staying by his side when he left us for the world above. What were his last injunctions to me? I am eager to hear them." Without a calm, Kaikeyi spoke. "That lion among men, your father, was wailing all the time, and he spoke only 3 names, Rama, Lakshmana, Sita. And wailing thus, he shed his body. Like a big elephant is helpless when tied with ropes, even so your father, bound as he was by the noose of death, spoke this one sentence: Fortunate will be the people who will see Rama, that handsome son of mine, with Sita and Lakshmana returning to Ayodhya." These were the last words spoken by your father, the king. Bharata was taken aback by her words. He was surprised at the news that Rama was not in Ayodhya when his father died. He asked her with a perturbed look, "Rama not here when the king died? What a strange situation. With Rama, I know Lakshmana would have gone too, but why Sita? What strange absence is this, mother? How was it possible that they went somewhere, and that when the king was indisposed? Or did the king leave us suddenly? Where is Rama?" Kaikeyi was just waiting for that question, and she spoke as though the banishment of Rama were a common occurrence. She said, "Bharata, my child, the son of the king, Rama, has left for the forest Dandaka dressed in tree bark, and with him have gone Lakshmana and Sita." Bharata covered his ears with both his palms, and he was trembling all over. He dreaded some misbehavior on the part of Rama which led to his banishment. He thought of the glory and prestige of the line of the kings of whom Rama was a descendant, and now this banishment. His mind was sorely troubled. He asked his mother, "Rama, in the Dandaka forest? But why? Why, mother? Why was he sent to the forest by my father? Did he annex the wealth which belonged to someone else? Did Rama punish anyone who was guiltless? Did he by any chance look at another man's wife with lust? What was the reason for the banishment? Kaikeyi knew that the moment had come, the moment for which she had been dreaming of all these days. With feminine cupidity, she had worked havoc in the house of the Ikshwakus, and unaware of the monstrosity of her crime, she spoke. No, Bharata, Rama did not commit any of the sins you have enumerated. It is true that these are the crimes for which your father would have decided that banishment was the only punishment. But Rama's banishment was for a different cause altogether. Bharata, my child, the king had made all arrangements for the coronation of Rama as the Yuvaraja. When I heard about it, I did not like it. I made the king grant that Rama should be banished and that you should be crowned as the Yuvaraja. Years back, once during the fight with the Devas against the Asuras, your father had been summoned to the heavens by Indra to assist him. I had gone with him and I was able to save his life on one occasion. Pleased with me, he had granted me 2 boons, which I had told him I would ask for it, and when the occasion arose. I asked for these now to serve my purpose. I wanted you to be crowned, and I wanted Rama to be sent to the Dandaka. Because he could not break his word, the king, your father, had to agree to it, and Rama was asked to go and live in the Dandaka forest. This exile has to last for the duration of 14 years. Lakshmana insisted on accompanying Rama, and so did Sita. As for the king, you know how much he loved Rama. He could not bear the separation from Rama. He could not live without Rama, and his end came. Come now, all that is in the past. I did it all for your sake and to see you king. Accept the kingdom which has been won for you by your mother. Do not grieve for what has happened. The city of Ayodhya is now yours, and so is the entire kingdom. There is no obstacle in your path. Obey the instructions of Vashishta and perform the funeral rites for your father. When he has reached the land of the Pitrus, you will be crowned as king. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Ramarpanamastu. Chapter 30 of Ramayana's Ayodhya Kanda, the wrath and sorrow of Bharata. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pathaye Namah. To Bharata, the words of Kaikeyi seemed so unreal at first, he could not grasp them. It seemed to him as though one lightning after another were striking him, and that he was standing helpless when they descended on him. He tried to shut out the terrible words by closing his ears with his hands, but her clear, calm voice went on droning, and the words were like hot lead being poured into his ears. He could not bear to hear any more. Nature, which is ever kind, allowed him a respite of a few moments by letting him faint. He lay motionless on the floor, and Kaikeyi stood watching him till he became aware of her. Rama, he wailed. Rama, my God, my Lord, he moaned. Words would not come to his lips. He could only repeat Rama's name, and he could say nothing else. Finally, he stood up. For a long moment, he looked at his mother and said, I have been ruined. My good name is gone forever. The king is dead and the world has come to an end. Women, who was the evil mentor who taught you to behave thus? Tell me, who did this mischief? The king has become just a lifeless body, and Rama is now a dweller in the forest, dressed in tree bark and deer skin. All this had to happen because you wanted the kingdom? God, what can I do? I have become an outcast overnight. You banished Rama to the forest, and you have been the death of your husband, and to my lasting shame. I have to remember that I am your son, born of you. There is no way to gauge the extent of your wickedness. Why did you not kill yourself by putting a noose around your neck or by drinking poison? Go, drown in the sea or fall into the blazing fire. I will willingly kill you myself. I would have done so too, but then my revered brother Rama will not look at me, since he will attribute the sin of matricide to me. That is the only reason why I hesitate to draw my sword and kill you. Kaikeyi stood with her eyes trained on him. She spoke no word, and Bharata continued, How have I wronged you that you should have caused this infamy to besmirch my name? Kaikeyi said, I am your mother, and I had your interest at heart. I desired to see you king of Kosala. You speak such harsh words to me. I do not deserve them. I have not wronged you. Why do you talk like this? Your father is dead, and your brothers have both been sent to the forest. What is the use of your anger against me? It serves no purpose. Listen to the words of your mother and accept the throne I have got for you with so much trouble. Bharata said, My father is gone, and Rama, who is like a father to me, is also away. What is left for me in this world? You have caused me this misery, and you have poisoned my entire life. Because of you, the great house of the Ikshwakus has been ruined. My unfortunate father took you into his bosom, not realizing that you were but a spark of fire. You betrayed him to Yama, the god of death. What hold did you have over my father that he had to agree to your infamous proposal? How could you do this to Rama? He loved you so much. He loved you as much as he loved Kausalya Devi. You have said so often yourself. As for Mother Kausalya, she has treated you like an younger sister and has always loved you. And how is it possible for you not to be unhappy when this same Rama is wandering in the forest like a mendicant? You have sent him far away from all of us, and you do not seem to regret it. Your avarice has blinded you and prevented you from seeing me as I really am. That is why you engineered this. Did you think even for a moment that I would accept the kingdom? With my father dead, with my brother banished, do you think I would dare to sit on the sacred throne which has been graced by my father? I would rather die than contemplate such a sinful act. It is well known that in the line of son, the eldest son always inherits the kingdom, and the younger brothers serve him all the time. This is the time-honored custom which has been followed for years on end, and you did not respect this precedent. How could you forget such an important fact? Your ancestry too has been faultless. Your father is noble, and so is your brother. Your father's ancestors have all been famed for their righteousness. How is it possible for such a daughter to be born to that great man? You can be sure of one thing. I will never agree to do what you want me to do. I prefer to kill myself. I will, this very moment, go to the forest and bring back my beloved brother Rama. Rama the sinless, Rama the favored prince of Ayodhya. I will bring him back, make him king, and serve him as a servant all my life, and try to expiate the sins of the monster who bore me. The noble Prince Bharata was unhappy to grasp the truth, and he was still reeling under the dreadful shock of the many happenings in Ayodhya. He had gone away for a short time, and during that short time, his father had died and his brother had been sent away to the forest. All because of his mother, who wanted to see him king. What could he do about it? Why do you stay in this country? Go away from here. You will see me dead very soon. Unconcerned as you seem to be about the rudiments of dharma, that is the only punishment for you, being sent away from the city. Tell me, what did Rama do that you should have done this to him? He is as sinless as my father, and that noble monarch met his end at your hands. I am certain there is a special hell waiting for you. This is no ordinary sin you have committed. You have lost your name, and men in after times will talk ill of you, and they will remember you for this act of yours as long as the sun and moon move in the orbits assigned for them. As for me, because I am unfortunate enough to be called your son, this stigma will always be attached to my name. I refuse to recognize you as my mother anymore. Those other hapless mothers of mine, Kausalya and Sumitra, are suffering untold misery. I have been forsaken by my brothers. My father has left me forever. The people of the city do not look on me with love since they consider me to be an usurper. What avarice is this which has blinded you to the noble qualities of Rama, who is like my very life to me? How could you think even for a moment that I would accept the throne which has been forcibly snatched from him, for which my father has paid with his precious life? Because of because of you, that gentle lady Kausalya is undergoing this suffering. As a punishment for that, you will suffer in this life and in the next. I cannot rest until I bring Rama back from the forest and make him accept the throne which is his. This is the only way in which I can bring a semblance of peace to the bruised heart of my mother Kausalya. I can, to an extent, vindicate my honor also. Bharata was overcome with emotion. He fell down again on the floor. His limbs were not able to bear him up. After a while he rose up, with his eyes red with anger and the copious tears he had shed, with his clothes all dusty and disarrayed, with his golden ornaments thrown on the ground in disgust. Bharata, the young prince, strode out of the chambers of Kaikeyi, and the earth trembled under his footsteps. So angry was he. Jai Shri Bharata. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatulyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Ramar Panamastu. Chapter 31 of Ramayana's Ayodhya Kanda, Bharata's Oath. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Bharata went to meet the ministers and others who were waiting to see him when they heard that he had returned from Rajagraha. He said, "Believe me, I have no desire for the kingdom. I do not have any affection left for this woman who was my mother. I knew nothing of the coronation which the king was contemplating. I was far away in Kekeya with my brother Shatrughna. All of you are aware of it. As for the forest life which has been meted out to my noble brother Rama and to Sita with Lakshmana, I knew it not." Bharata was sobbing as though his heart would break. Kausalya heard the voice of Bharata and told Sumitra, "Bharata, the son of cruel Kaikeyi, has come back from Kekeya. I would like to see him. I would like to see this prince who has been blessed with so much forethought." Sorrow had made Kausalya bitter, and her words had a sharpness which they did not have before. Her face had lost its glow, and her silks were soiled and uncared for. Her form trembled often, and her steps were faltering. She had grown old overnight when she lost her lord and her son. Bharata, eager to meet Kausalya, was walking fast towards her apartment, and she had come out too. They met halfway. Bharata embraced the thin, emaciated figure of Kausalya. The queen looked at Bharata and she spoke words which were extremely wounding. She said, "How easily has the kingdom been won for you by your mother Kaikeyi? Child, you have now no obstacles in your path, and you can ascend the throne immediately. Fortunate are you to have such a capable woman for mother. As for my son, Kaikeyi has managed to send him far away, dressed in tree barks. She seems to be exceptionally happy ever since she did this to my son. I only wish to ask a favor of her. If only she will be good enough to send me where Rama is, she will be the kindest person I have ever known. Or else, why should I wait for her to send me? Accompanied by Sumitra, I will go myself to the forest. I will stay there, since I have nothing left to live for in Ayodhya. If there is any compassion left in your heart for a grieving old woman, you can help me to reach my son's hermitage. I will take with me the household fire and tend it with care in the forest. Your mother has won for you the kingdom flowing with wealth, overflowing with prosperity. Enjoy it to your heart's content with your mother. Only let me find peace in the company of my child. Kausalya's words were sharp and hurting, and to Bharata it was like a needle probing a wound which was still bleeding. He was sinless and he suffered under the lashing. He could not bear it and he fell senseless on the floor. He recovered and then he prostrated before her and he clasped her feet in his hands. His tears washed them and he stood up. With folded palms, he stood before her. She could see that he was suffering intensely. He said, "Mother, I am innocent and it is not right that you should blame me for something which happened in my absence. You know only too well my devotion to Rama. He is like a god to me and I worship him. A great and noble soul is Rama, and to him truth is the only religion to be followed. He has been sent to the forest. But mother, do not, even for a moment, think that I had been party to this dreadful act of my mother's. If I really had done it, then all the punishment which are described in the Vedas will be meted out to me. The sin of kicking a sleeping cow, of a master making a servant work and then refusing to pay him, of a king who takes money from the subjects and does not govern them properly, of a man who does not honor the rishis who have performed a yaga for him, of a man who talks ill of his elders, who eats all alone when his wife and children are starving, who kills a king, a woman, an old man, or a child instead of protecting them. I will suffer like a beggar with a kapala in my hand and with tattered clothes covering me. Mother, there are a million other punishments and they will all visit me if what you think of me is true. If I had really tried to get the throne after having my brother banished and my father killed, I must have sinned in some other life, or else how can my mother, you who has known me and my love for Rama all these years, how can you believe this of me? Kausalya was overcome with self-reproach for having spoken so sharply. She gathered sorrowing Bharata in her arms and said, "Do not weep, child. Do not be sad. I have been very unhappy these days, and that has blinded me to such an extent that I spoke thus to you. You must forgive me. With your sorrow, you are only making mine increase. May the gods be praised that your firm mind has not been moved by the temptation of a throne dangled in front of you. You are a noble prince, and there is a special place for you in heaven for a selfless man like you." Kausalya's tears mingled with his, and to an extent he was comforted by the words of Kausalya. He was happy that she believed his words and his sincere devotion to Rama. He spent the night in the apartment of Kausalya, and they spent the night in talking of Rama and about the king and the dire happenings in the city when he was away. Jai Shri Bharata, Jai Shri Ram. Shri Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Rathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Om Shri Ramar Pranamast. Chapter 32 of Ramayana's Ayodhya Kanda, the last rites for the king. Apadamahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shriramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyam. Vashishta, the wise, came to Bharata early in the morning. He said, "Shed this grief, my son, and do the needful. We have taken great care to preserve the earthly remains of your noble father. You must now perform the last rites, considering that Rama, the eldest, who should have been the one to do it, is absent in the forest." Perhaps Bharata detected a sneer, a touch of sneer in the last words of his guru, or perhaps he imagined it. If he did not reveal that he was aware of it. He wiped his eyes and silently followed his guru to where his father was, and Shatrughna accompanied him. Bharata saw his father. Because of the soaking in oil for a week or more, the king's skin looked slightly yellow. He had been placed on the ground where dharba grass had been spread, and it seemed to Bharata that his father was sleeping. There was an expression of infinite peace on the face of the king, and to Bharata, who had not seen the king in agony and pain, the sight was all the more heart-rendering. He wept like a child and said, "Father, king, emperor, how could this happen? What thoughts were lodged in your mind when our beloved Rama left you and went away? I was away and knew nothing of this. Father, separated from Rama, where have you gone? How can you live even in the heavens when Rama is not by your side? Who will rule the country without you on the throne and with Rama, the rightful heir, away in the forest? The city has the appearance of a beautiful woman who has been widowed, and, like the night without the moon, it is dark and frightening." Vashishta tried to help Bharata recover from the fit of gloom into which he had fallen. He said, "Come, Bharata, compose yourself. Get up and perform all the rites calmly and bravely. You are a prince and you are brave and firm. Do not give way to extreme sorrow. It is weakening to the mind. You must cast off this sadness." The Kulaguru, Vashishta, had already collected the articles necessary for the rites. Ritviks and priests had assembled in the hall of the great palace. The home fire, which the king was wont to worship daily, was brought from the place where it was always kept, and it was now worshipped with oblations poured into it. All the rites were performed by Bharata, with Shatrughna standing by his side. The young prince spoke not a word and did not shed a tear. He said nothing and did everything which he was asked to do. The last moment had come. In a palanquin decorated with flowers and with silks, the servants of the king, with their throats choked with unshed tears, carried him to the ground where he had to be cremated. Ayodhya was there, every one of the citizens. Death had vindicated the king from the censure of the people, and their anger was all against Kaikeyi, and the king was pitied and mourned by all. The fire had been prepared with sandalwood and other woods which gave forth fragrance when burnt. The woods were sandal, sararsa, padmaka, and devadaru. The fire, which was set to transport him to the other world, was properly worshipped by Ritviks. Samaveda was recited, and as was the custom, the funeral cortege left the palace. The queens went with it in their palanquins. The king was placed on the fire, and Bharata touched it with a sacred fire. Dasharatha soon became one with the elements, and after they had bathed in Sarayu, the royal family and the others returned to the palace. The nights were spent on the bare ground by the queens, Bharata and Shatrughna. On the 12th day, the Shraddha was performed, and on the 13th day, gifts were given away to the poor and Brahmins, as was the custom. Cows, houses, goats, clothing for them were all given away, and the prince was bountiful in his gifts, even as his father was. On the 13th day, early in the morning, the prince had to go to the burnt out fire to collect the bones of his father, and that was when Bharata broke down. He thought of his father. his imposing figure tall and dignified, with a noble look on his face, with a smile on his lips when he was with his sons, with a stern eye when he was in the council hall engaged in the affairs of the state, a look of love in his eyes when he entered the apartments of Kaikeyi. All that was nothing but a handful of ashes and a few bones. Bharata was inconsolable. He said, "Father, we have never known what suffering is. You have been such an affectionate father, and you have now abandoned us and gone. Where? When we were eating, when we were being dressed, when we went out to play, all the time your loving eyes would rest on us with infinite love, and we would bask under that warmth. Who will bother about us now, Father? This earth should have split when she saw you leave her and go. She did not. Why? As for me, my father has abandoned me and gone to the abode of the gods, and my beloved brother, who is like a father to me, has also left me and gone away to the Dandaka. What is there left to live for in this Ayodhya? I will throw myself into the fire and join my father. This desolate city is not beautiful any longer, since the two whom I love have left it. I will die, or I will become a tapaswin like my other brothers and live in the forest. I will not come back to the city." Vashishta had again to come and talk to him. He said, "Bharata, I thought you were an intelligent human being. You should do your duty and not play the women when already the women are sorrowing for their lord. Come, collect the bones which are still remaining on the pyre. Bharata, 3 pairs visit every man. They are hunger and thirst, sorrow and delusion, birth and death. Bharata, 3 pairs visit every man. I repeat, they are hunger and thirst, sorrow and delusion, birth and death. No man can escape these unless he is wise enough to know them for what they are, that they are transient and inevitable. If man is prepared for them and can tackle them properly, then they will fail to take firm hold of his power of thinking. Man should know that this world is beset with these and similar opposites, and life is an eternal warfare between these and intelligence, which should be prepared to subdue them whenever they threaten to gain ascendancy over man. Death can never be averted. A man who is born has to die, and that is the law of nature. It is true that your father, the king, died under tragic circumstances, but then that is again the work of fate. No one can withstand fate. Do not give in to grief. We know how much you are made to suffer. I know that the shock of your father's death has been too much to bear. Still, man that you are, you must abandon this excessive grief and comfort the women who are helpless in their sorrow." Sumantra spoke words of comfort too. He had been very dear to the king, and his grief was immense. He had gone through the harrowing experience of taking Rama to the forest, and after leaving him there, he had come back to the king with Rama's words of farewell. That was the last he had seen of the king. He comforted the youngsters. The two brothers, with their eyes cast down, with tears still streaming from their eyes, pursued their painful duty and collected the bones of their father to be cast into the river at a particular spot designated by their guru. They then offered the Anjali to the departed soul and come back to the palace. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Jai Shri Bharata, Jai Shri Dasharatha, Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Ramarpanamastu.